And this is the Peach Baskets Podcast. I'm Mike Lischio Jr. This is Mike Lischio III, and we thank you for joining us. Just a little background on how this came to be. Last year during the Peach Belt tournament, Michael and I were kind of breaking it down. We're pretty big fans of our Flagler Saints, of course, and we've made a few road trips and we pay attention to a lot of what's going on. And we were sitting there kind of breaking down the tournament and thought, well, that's an idea for a podcast. And so here we are. We thank you for joining us here. Michael, welcome to the podcast world.
Thanks. This is my first time ever being on a podcast. This should be fun. I'm excited for it, though.
And we have a special guest tonight. Joining us a little later will be USCB coach, USC-Beaufort Coach Ron Fudala will join us. Tonight we're going to go through and preview the Peach Belt. The preseason rankings came out. And so we'll go through the coaches voting on the predicted standings of the Peach Belt. And we'll talk to Coach Fudala and get you kind of ready for the Peach Belt season. You see the scores from this week below is a very busy week. North Georgia has set the pace, haven't they, Michael?
Oh, yeah. 5-0 to start off. They look very tough to beat. Beat number 1 Minnesota State in a neutral site game. That's always a great win. And this program is just a great program. You see why I'm repping them.
And we had an exciting weekend as well. Michael called his first college basketball game. We called the USC-Beaufort Francis Marion game the USC-Beaufort Emory and Henry game that went into overtime. I had USC Francis Marion the day before I did that game. I would encourage you, if you're going to listen to it, only listen to like the last 5 minutes of regulation, because
that game went into overtime too, though.
It was a lot of thrills, because with USCB, and we'll learn a little bit about it as we go on, how they are not out of it. But let's get right to it. Let's go ahead and pull up here the preseason poll. So we see Lander at the top, and followed by Augusta and North Georgia, USC-Aiken, Columbus State, Flagler, Georgia College, Georgia Southwestern, Clayton State, and USC-Beaufort. Just your initial thoughts on how the coaches voted that one out.
I thought it was interesting that they didn't put North Georgia first, considering their success that they had last year. But
North Georgia, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Lander has picked up a lot of guys, so I understand why they would vote them first.
Lander had North Georgia in their way, and the winner of that game would end up going to the Elite Eight, as North Georgia did. And I think Flagler's kind of ranked low. I know losing Malik Bryan is kind of a big loss, and Jalen Barr's now at Iona, and losing the Defensive Peach Belt Player of the Year. But I think we're sleeping on Flagler a little bit, because I feel like there was a couple of bounces of the ball here or there, and they've been a tournament team last year. Obviously, we're expecting the resurgence of Augusta, and North and USC-Aiken is always tough. They always come to play, as does Columbus State. So I think it's going to be very competitive. I think you see that in the fact that there was first place votes for 5 teams. That tells you how competitive the conference really is.
I think Beaufort should not have been ranked that low, personally. They are a good squad that never is out of a game, and I feel like they should have gotten some more respect.
And we'll get to that as well, because I think we're going to have some disagreements with how the coaches voted this one out. But let's jump right into it, and let's start. We'll go in order of the teams that as they were picked. And, of course, we got Lander. Omar Watad is back for his 5th season at Lander. They lost some key players. They lost Philip Burwell, who for Lander averaged 9 points a game. He was a 3rd-team Peach Belt Conference player, 3rd team in assists. They have a couple of newcomers in Grayson Pritzy, a St. Leo transfer, and Tim Steele from Lenore-Rhine that should help get that team going. And, of course, they've got Anadi Legiste, who is on the 1st-team preseason Peach Belt team. Michael, your thoughts on Lander?
Lander is going to be very good this year. I mean, they as much as the guys they lost, they got guys to replace them. They got guys who are going to step up this year, like Legate and Torn Andrews. Sorry. And Tim Steele is a great pickup for them, in my opinion.
And when you play defense
Lander
like
should
they
be
do,
a good team.
And when you play defense like they do, Yeah, defense translates. So
It,
you can bring in players and you can lose players, but if you have the defense they have, and they were the top defensive team in the Peach Belt Conference last year, and second in 3-point defense, that's going to travel as
oh
well
yeah.
as the team that makes the three ball. If you can make threes, I think you're always going to be in a game.
Oh yeah. They were very good at locking guys up last year. It is a great squad.
And of course, like we said, Inati Logiste, 53% field goal shooting, 39% three pointers. Pace the he's going to pace the Peach Belt Conference of the year. So we have big expectations for him. Let's move on to Augusta. Now, Augusta had quite a run of success under Dip Metris, who's in his 20th season up in Northeast Georgia. Talk about their key losses. I know these are a couple of people you were pretty fond of.
Oh, David Beatty has been one of my favorite players at Augusta in a long while. A very underrated scorer who is a great shooter and just steps up big time when you need him to. He graduated, and same thing. And Timmy Sellers is also going to be a big loss for them. Great player off the bench. He would come in. He would be able to shoot the ball really well. Shot 57% from the field last year, and he's just a
Excellent
big
rebounder.
loss too. Oh, amazing rebounder.
And they've
Average
got
two. Go ahead.
I say he only averaged 2.1 rebounds, but he in 10 minutes a game. But he was somebody who contributed off the bench. They still bring back though Dimitri
Oh yeah.
Gardner, who had 17 and a half points a game. He was preseason all conference, second team Peach Belt last year. We're going to talk about as we go. You're going to find that a lot of the first team Peach Belt players have moved on to other places, and I think that's kind of the changing landscape of the Division II game. Is that if you do have success, and we're going to talk about a lot of guys as we go, if you do have success, you're going to find that those players are going to move on and either move on to a small Division I school or even a big Division I school. We have somebody who's playing in the Big 12 this year out of the
Yes,
conference, and we'll
sir.
talk about that as well. But Dimitri Gardner, he is the straw that stirs the drink, and I think he's going to be very tough to stop. I mean, he took control of this Augusta team, took over a team that had quite a run when he got there, and he hasn't missed a beat. So yeah, I'm expecting good things from. I can see the Peach Belt getting four teams into the tournament this year, possibly even a fifth, depending on how
Yeah.
things shake out. But this Augusta team is definitely going to be one of those that contends for it. Now we'll move on to North Georgia. I know North Georgia made it all the way to the Elite Eight. They are the defending Peach Belt champions, but you want to talk about losses, and I'm going to let you talk about
Oh
losses. I
my
think
God.
this is
There's
your
not.
guy.
This is arguably, well, probably not very arguably, the best player in the conference, Frank Champion, just one of the best players the Peach Belt has seen in a long while. Averaged 17 and 7 in 32 minutes a game. That's just a workhorse of a player that he is.
There was nothing Frank couldn't do. He was second in points
Oh,
per
yeah.
games, third in rebounders, second in shooting, second in assists. Yeah, he was a potential triple double on every night, and I think we talked about this before the show. If we really started to get interested in Flagler basketball again around the time Chad Warner got here about 6 years ago, and in that time, Frank Champion's one of the top two or three players that's been in the conference, and so he is off to UT Chattanooga. He is a huge loss, and probably the reason that people are kind of down on North Georgia, but you still have your core there. AJ White's still there. Caden Charles, who's the defending Peach Belt Player of the Week, is going to step up. I think you'll see a lot of big things. We're already seeing a lot of big things. They're 5-0. We're seeing things in their extended role, and then they added a pretty big ad from Division III, a guy who's coming up. Tell us about Stephen Akwiku.
Stephen Akwiku is a great scorer. He averaged 14 last year. He was Hartford's leading scorer. Also averaged 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal and a half per game. And he can just do it all, basically. And he's a great ad for them. They also added Chris Cole, who is a very underrated scorer. He can shoot at a pretty high pace. He came from Shorter University, who's also D2. And
Shorter, where Chad Warner used to coach, as a matter of fact.
yes,
And that's
sir.
Now, Stephen Kwiku, you think a Division III guy going up to Division II, is he going to be able to say? But Hartford was actually in a transition year, so they were transitioning from Division I down to Division III, which you don't see a whole lot of. But
No, especially these days.
I think this is a player who you can't just look at. Well, he came from Division III. Is he going to be able to make the step up? He's kind of probably Division II is probably right where he is in that transition. So looking forward to that. And I know you believe that North Georgia could repeat, and they certainly seem well on their way. They're currently ranked 9th in the country, and obviously, we'll see it's one of the things with the preseason polls. We'll see how things change as we get further into the season. If those end up right. I know if we go back to like the SEC football polls, those never turn out right.
Oh, so, never.
And when you have a conference that's as competitive from top to bottom as you're going to see throughout the year as the Peach Belt, I think there's going to be some shakeup here. So let's move on to USC Aiken. Aiken 23-7. They made the tournament last year. Mark Vandersleet is the reigning coach of the year in the PBC. In his 10th year, they were 3rd in scoring, offense and defense. So they were pretty balanced. They could do things on both ends of the floor. But you see those key losses there. These are some huge key losses. This is probably why they're picked so low in the conference, is that these are some tough losses to overcome.
The 3 guys that they lost were 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in scoring for them. And also they were oh my God. Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson was the reigning Peach Belt player of the year. Terry Horn was also first team all conference. I mean, it's going to be hard to replace 32 points a game. Jameel Rideout going on to Elon. He's gone. They lost 4 of their top 6 scorers because Demetrius Dixon also graduated, and so he was their 6th leading scorer. So a lot's going to be put in the hands of Jalen McCoy. And Jalen McCoy, he's probably – I'll tell you who I think I would have as my front runner for player of the year. But I know Jalen McCoy is definitely going to be in the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Jalen McCoy scores the ball essentially at will, averaging 19 last year. Also is a great guy that can clean up off the glass. Had it about 6 a game last year. And he will force turnovers. He'll block the ball. He'll steal the ball. He'll do it all. He's just a great player like that.
And then I've got the big transfer from Newberry, Caleb Bird. You tell us about him, because I think he's going to have to step in and fill a big role pretty quickly for the Pacers.
Caleb Bird averaged 11 points a game last year, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal and a half per game.
And he also
was at Newberry.
Yeah, I mean, he's played at the Division II level, and he struggled overall field goal percentage. Pretty good three-point shooter too. So you'll see that, and a solid rebounder. So he's going to be able to have a little inside-out game for the Pacers.
Oh yeah.
And now we get to. I always associate Columbus State and the Cougars with one thing, and I think you know what that is.
Oh yeah.
Hoot hoot. So they had a couple years ago a parent, I'm assuming, that would hoot, and her legacy to the Peach Belt is that we've been to quite a few games where fans just randomly start hooting now. They are coming off a 16-13 season. They lost to UNG in the regional semifinal, and they had some key losses too. But really, by Peach Belt standards, they were really relatively unscathed. And I think for Columbus State, it's less about who they lost and more about who they're getting in. They've got a really talented transfer class coming in this year.
Oh yeah, they got a 3-headed monster coming in of Akeem Nickerson, Jordan Mitchell, and Rakeem Gary. All averaged above 12 points a game last year. Jordan Mitchell averaged 8.3 rebounds last year at Shelton State Community College, which those are some great stats, I'll tell you what. And then Nickerson coming from St. Petersburg College, he averaged 16 and 4. So just getting some great scores.
Yeah, Nickerson is also a shot blocker, as is Mitchell, so they'll have an inside presence there. And then we talked about who I said I had a dark horse candidate, so to speak, for player of the year. And I got to tell you, my guy right here, he was third team All Peach Belt Conference, Jared Adderton. I think Jared Adderton might be the most underrated player in the conference. He averaged 16 points a game last year, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and also 2 steals. So he is a complete ball player, and Columbus will go as far as he'll take them.
Oh yeah, and the matchup of him and Wisdom Ubo, that is a double-headed monster if I've ever seen one. Ubo averaged 14 and 4 rebounds with about 3 assists per game, which is crazy numbers. He was the leader in the conference in free throws, which is not hard or not easy to do. So credit to him too.
Yeah, this is a Columbus team, I think, that can turn a few heads this year. I think that, I think they're kind of right in the right place with the conference, but they're one of those teams, again, that, they get on a hot streak. They can make a little bit of a run. So we are going in order of the teams. So, USC-Beaufort, spoiler alert, obviously we know was picked to finish last in the conference. Now, I don't want to wait much longer. I want to get to our interview. We had a very special guest join us who spent some time in St. Augustine and is off to a 2-0 start. And that would be USC-Beaufort coach Ron Fudala. He was our guest for the week. Cast?
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Speaking of excitement, it was quite an exciting start to your season this weekend, wasn't it, down there at Flagler College?
Yeah, Flagler's a great environment. I love at the end of our games, all the fans are starting to trickle in for the Flagler game, and our games ended up being pretty exciting. So it's a great atmosphere, man. You down there at Flagler, they do a great job. Coach Sella, Judd, the AD, just the whole staff. It's a high class A1 setup down there. So hospitality was great. Games were great. Great run tournament. Can't say enough about the staff down there.
And what about your team? You in both games, you found yourself down late in the second half, 21 in the first game, 15 in the second game. Yet you found a way to come back. What's that say about your team?
I just think we got resiliency and grit. We got guys that buy into a culture. We got guys that want to play for each other and just are willing to do anything to win. It might be having to take a charge, grabbing a tough rebound, making an extra play for a teammate. Just any little thing to win, any little thing to get an advantage. I think our guys do that, and it's something we work on in practice, and I'm just proud of their effort.
You have a little bit of a different style because you guys score a lot of points. You shoot the ball pretty well, but you also create a lot of turnovers. Where does that energy come from?
You know what? That's just, that's my personality. That's how I like to play. Our practices are high energy. So I wanted to create, and I didn't create the system, but I just wanted to play a style that fit my personality. And that's why we have the staff that we do. Coach Dyer played at West Liberty, where kind of they call it the system. I don't really like to call it that, but where it started with Coach Crutchfield, and we shifted around a little bit. We don't play exactly like that. I say we don't give our secrets up, but the high energy just matches my personality. That's what I think guys like to play in, so that's why I like to do it.
So you're the first coach in Beaufort history. What was that interview like, and what drew you to the job?
The interview process is really what drew me to the program. I had a couple phone interviews, a couple Zooms. And I was at IUP, and honestly, I wasn't going to leave IUP. We had a great team coming back. And when I came down on my in-person interview, the place really sold me, and the people sold me. I loved the first interaction I had with our athletic director, Quinn Monahan, and really fell in love with the people, and that's what did it. The campus is beautiful. We're 20 minutes from the beach. I get all that. But it was the people. And then the opportunity to really create something special and doing it with people that I could trust, people that, have no egos and just want to help young people grow. And I felt that vibe the minute I stepped on campus. And the process was pretty rigorous. It was about basketball and strategy and X's and O's, but it was also about what's your vision, how do you intend this program to be, who do you want it to be, what do you want to value, how do you create a fan base, how do you do fundraising, how do you do all these little things and facility planning, and what's your opinion on this or that, so it was rigorous. Met with the ADE and pretty much every coach and some other people across campus, our president. We had a great bond with really everybody, a genuine bond. And I'm forever grateful because they bought what I was selling. So I'm grateful.
You mentioned IUP. Oops, sorry.
Go ahead, Michael.
You mentioned IUP. You were there during that 33-3 run. Kind of walk us through what it was like being a part of that squad.
Oh, it gives me chills, because the men we had in the program really made a lot of sacrifices, and being a part of that was special. I got to coach some guys for 4 years, which is unique in today's day and age. And it's really special when you have the target on your back every single night and you're able to find a way to win, and knowing you have to bring it at all moments. And accepting those challenges, that was really special and unique, and having a game plan, because once you get really good at something, you're the star on the calendar. So teams, they prepare a week in advance for you. So how do you maintain that consistency? It's tough, and it taught me a lot in coaching and leading, and IUP is a special place in my heart. I'm forever grateful for Coach Lombardi and just the players there that we had were special. So that's what it's all about. Our players were special, and we were able to do some special things.
How is the community of Bluffton and Beaufort? Because obviously there's the main campus at Beaufort, and I know the basketball facilities at Bluffton, a great facility, by the way. We made the trip up last year, and we were very impressed with it. Very beautiful place for a ball game. How does that community embrace you?
Oh, they've
your team.
They've embraced it to the highest level, to be honest with you. It's so exciting. It's so much fun being there. And the facility's even better now than when you saw. We're continuing to add and get better. We got brand new seats. We opened up our locker room last week, so we're finally in the locker room. We got a visitor's locker room. Got new wall graphics. It's special. It's loud, which we love, and that's part of the excitement of what we wanted to do as a program. We want to have a true home court advantage, and we truly do. From the first game, electric atmospheres. People care. From day one, they're excited about it. I walk into a grocery store, and people kind of know who you are, and that's why I wanted to take the job, because I like to be low key, to be honest with you. So I don't want any of that, but these people care and they embrace it. And it's special. We got Beaufort and even people from Hilton Head coming out to see the games. It gives them something to do in the winter time, and we're fortunate that they've embraced us, and continuing to ask about the team. And I love that. How are the guys looking this year, Coach? Can we stop by practice? We love that. We embrace it. We're an open book program. We want to invite as many community members as we can. Whether that be a VIP section or a practice or just to meet the guys on the team. I want it to be a community product, and that's something also that we've talked about in the interview process and kind of building this thing and building the foundation. So I owe it to a lot of our close games were due to the community support we had, and it's fantastic, and we're going to continue to grow it.
One of those close games was a win over Augusta last year, your first Peach Belt win. What was that game like? It was a 111 win.
That one was special for me, just because it was the first Peach Belt win, and for our guys, just the excitement and the energy in the gym was great. But also, when I was at IUP, Augusta beat us in the Final Four. And then a year later, I'm coaching at USCB, and we're playing Augusta in the first conference game in school history. So it had some weird kind of significance to it. And us being able to pull out the victories is all the credit to the guys, and the excitement that they generated and the energy amongst each other, created that victory, and kind of let it be known that basketball in the Low Country is here, and it's here to stay. It's here to stay.
What was that first season like? How would you assess that first season?
As a coach, you always want to put a couple more wins, and win the I never really looked at it, to be honest with you, as we're new, even though we are. But I recruit the same talent. I love our guys, so that's really what it's about. These guys, they're special, and we had a kind of an underdog mentality because we had to. But the journey of the first year was. It had its moments, and so maybe I didn't enjoy it as much as I probably should have. But because I trust in our guys and I'm confident in the talent we have in the room, and I thought we got to mature faster than other teams, both individually and as a program, and I think we were able to do that in one short year. And too many memories that from the first Morris game, scoring 130, the first Peach Belt game, and all the electric crowds, in our gym, and traveling on the road with the team. And it was special. And it taught me a lot as a coach as well. Just the little details that sometimes you take for granted. We're teaching everything from how do we travel, and how do we operate on the road, and, how do we operate in practice, and how do we run in and out of drills and water breaks and everything, So it made me be a more focused coach as well, which I think is going to make our program, as best it can be in the long run. But it was awesome, man. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm so fortunate, to be able to talk about it and have the experience. There's not a whole lot. I don't know any college basketball coaches in the country, maybe a handful, that have had this opportunity in the past, 10 years. And for our program to be one of them is special to me. And I can't be more grateful. I tell our guys that all the time. I see people like, man, coach, you're living a dream right now, aren't you? And I'm like, sometimes you take it for granted, and I try not to every day, and try to put my best foot forward and continue to grow the program and do it with the values that we think are important.
Now, speaking of those values, you are from Western PA, and there's a grit about people from Western PA, and you have a couple kids from Pittsburgh on your team. Is that the kind of player you're, or is a kid with toughness and grit like that?
100% toughness, grit, can see the bigger picture, can move on to the next play as fast as they can. That has a chip, that has an edge on it, that doesn't sweat the small things because they know they just have to work hard and do the best they can. Pittsburgh people are proud people, so I want our program to be a proud program. It's crazy. Basketball's taken me pretty much all over the world, and Pittsburgh, when you are in Pittsburgh, people love saying they're from Pittsburgh. They're proud to be from Pittsburgh. So I want to put that into our program. We're proud to be Sand Sharks. That's a staple we want to create. And I think that the culture of Pittsburgh, embodies that type of person we want to have. So it's absolutely built in, and it's planned. And that's why I got some of my guys down here from up there.
Now, every team is different in college basketball. What should we expect from the returning players this year?
We should expect continued growth, leadership. Our guys, we have one of the best cultures I've been at as far as guys getting in the gym. These guys want to work. These guys want to get better. We have a get better mentality every day. So I think you can expect an elevated maturity, an elevated decision-making capabilities, an elevated discipline-ship, an elevated accountability-ship. Just an overall better, more consistent focus on we'll do whatever it takes, to help the team win. And I think all of our returners embody that, especially our upperclassmen. I've been coaching Kyle Poles for 5 years. Kenny's in our program. Kenny played 2 years at JUCO. That was a national championship type JUCO. So he's had some high level experience. This is his 5th year playing college basketball. Alejandro Relat's been in the Final Four at Florida Atlantic and has seen it at the highest level. This is his 5th year playing college basketball. Kavon Price is a junior for us. He played a year in JUCO. Now this is the 3rd year, so he's got some leadership. Patrick Irill, he's hurt right now, but he's been playing 5 years of college basketball. So we have experienced guys, experienced seniors, and then our sophomores are really, really stepping it up. they've grown a lot, and even the guys that don't show up in the stat sheet have grown in there. How do I help our team win? And they're proud of that. And when you can get that kind of buy-in from guys, you got some good stuff going on.
Go ahead, Michael.
What do you say to your guys after a bad performance from one of them? Like, if they have a bad performance, what do you say to them to make sure they keep going?
I don't even like to talk about a bad performance as well. It's more about how are we preparing for that performance? Since we're such a next play team, we try not to really focus on a bad performance per se. We talk about, what was your mindset here, and how do you take this performance and move on? We're a growth minded team, so we don't necessarily have to harp on in a mistake. Man, I tell the guys, man, you can make as many mistakes as you want. It doesn't bother me, the mistakes. It's just, are we learning and growing? That's what we focus on. And when you focus on that, you're not worried about any mistake you may have made. It's just, how do we get better? How do we move on from here? And how do we operate? And that's what I think when you invest in that learning growth mindset, it's kind of built in. You don't even have to talk about it. Like we got guys coming up to me saying, Coach, I need to be better. And I look back at them and I say, you will be better. Don't worry about that. So those are our conversations. And how do we move forward? So that's our culture. And that's our guys. That's not anything special that I'm doing. It's the guys we have in the program that had that mindset, and it's just continuing to invest in that. We got guys coming into my office all the time watching film. Coach, can I watch? Sometimes they bother me, and I want to say, God, I need to focus on myself. But it's all about the guys you bring in and their mindset and growing them. So.
Now, what do you like to do when you're away from the facility? I know being a coach, obviously a very busy job, but what do you like to do when you're not in the facility? When you actually do have some time for yourself?
I'm pretty simple, but I do. The only time I really sit on the couch is like we said today when I'm watching a Pittsburgh Steelers football game. That 3 hours and 30 minutes is what I call Coach Ron time, and I literally sit on my couch and watch the entire game, or I'm cooking some food. I enjoy to cook food. So other than watching the Pittsburgh Steelers and cooking some food, I'm probably doing something related to the program, whether that's watching film, whether that's reading about other coaches, whether that's learning from somebody else, or whether that's trying to go out and meet a donor for dinner, or, anything that I can do to invest in the program is what it's a constant obsession in my mind, because I just want to be the best I can be for our players and our community.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Fins up, and hopefully I can coach the next game. We don't have a heart attack going down 21 points. Have a great day, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Although there I am. I don't know if anybody heard any of that, but
There you are.
What a great transition that was, wasn't it? Coach Fudala's got an exciting thing going down in Beaufort, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, they got a good program down there, a good up and coming program, coached by a great guy as well. I must say, such a good guy that Coach Ron is there.
Yeah, they've got an exciting thing, and like I said to him, that's a great facility they have there, and it's pretty centrally located to everybody in the conference. I'd imagine that there's the Columbus and Georgia Southwestern being on the western end of the state might be a little far to drive across into South Carolina, but for the most part, it's centrally located. It was a nice, easy 3-hour trip. It's only probably a couple hours from Augusta and Aiken, and a few from Lander as well. So if you get a chance, you should definitely go on and make that trip. So let's look now as we continue our tour through the Peach Belt Conference. Let's look at our home team, the Flagler Saints, and I'm going to let you take the floor here because this is a team in transition.
Oh, yeah. Went 20-11 last year, made the conference finals, lost a very close game to UNG. Coach Selland, in his third season there, 33-28 overall, was originally one of the assistants of Chad Warner, who's now at Furman doing his thing there. And this team lost a lot of players. They lost a lot of great players. They lost Malik Bryan, obviously. He graduated his second team all-conference. Lost Jalen Barr, who's now at Iona, who is the conference defensive player of the year. They lost Omar Figueroa, who's now at Rollins. He was second in the conference in three-pointers. And lost Spencer Bain, who was one of their best bench guys, to Kansas State. But they still kept arguably one of the top players in the conference, Destin Clark, who was second team all Peach Belt. And they still got Jax Knight too.
Yeah, Jax Knight has stepped up so much over the last 3-4 years. It shows what a great job Blake Selland has done developing the talent there because Jax, he started off as a guy who was kind of at the end of the bench, and he's kind of been the pulse of the team, at least early in the season. They lost Spencer Bain, their sharpshooter. He's now at Kansas State. But they brought in some great players too. Obviously, I think the biggest player that's going to come in, I know Max Hrdlicka from UNF. We're huge Matt Driscoll fans at UNF. Probably the most underrated coach in America, and he's been off to a great start with his Ospreys. But when he recruits a guy like Max Hrdlicka, he's recruiting a guy who can shoot the basketball, and we've seen that already from Max. But I think Jalen Jordan from Georgia Southwestern, he's already had this weekend. He had 19 and 16, and then 18 and 12 last night. He is a guy who I think is going to make such a huge difference for them. And he has to. They lose Jalen Barr, but they get Jalen Jordan. So I think you can't replace Jalen Barr, but this is as close as you can get to it. Is a solid player like Jalen Jordan. And he's really who I'm most excited for. Mason Manning. He's just a lunch pail guy. He does everything well, and last year he just got better and better as the season went on. So, Flagler picked near the bottom of the conference, but I think, better watch out because once Blake
they could shock some people. They could absolutely shock them people.
No bias, of course.
Obviously, no bias whatsoever.
And we'll have Blake. We're planning to have Blake on for next week's show. So, but I do think Flagler, and this is again shows the depth of a conference. A team like Flagler, who was just a couple of bounces of ball. I think, a couple games go different, and I think they're in the tournament last year, and they're near the bottom of the conference. So that just shows how far this conference has, how much depth this conference has. So now let's look at Georgia College. Ryan Aquino is in his third season as head coach. I know it's his first there, but the Georgia College website hasn't quite been updated. Joe Flacco doppelganger, Ryan Aquino. And, he took over a program, and now the coach's name is escaping me, but he was there for quite a long time. Mark Gaines was there for a long time and did a great job with Georgia College up there in Millie. And, this is a team that brings back a lot of people. There are a couple of losses, but really they bring back Brendan Rigsby, who was first team preseason. He was second team Peach Belt last year, averaging 17 points a game. Zaire Green, he was a great player in the backcourt, and he struggled a little. Actually, Zaire Green was hurt. He struggled last year, but I think him coming back is going to make a difference. Austin Sloan's a good ball player as well. And then here's another team that wants to work in the transfer portal, and they've got somebody who I think is going to surprise some people.
Oh, yeah. Jay Nichols is from Lemoore College, which is a junior college, but he averaged 15, 11, and 2 last year, which is just ridiculous numbers on 60, 37, 68 shooting splits. That's just hard to do.
and almost 2 blocks and a steal and a half. So he's a guy
Oh
that I
yeah.
think is going to take the Peach Belt Conference by storm for the Bobcats, who, while we're here, great color scheme. I think you guys should use the blue more than the green because the blue is the prettiest
Oh
shade of
yeah.
blue in the world, but great color scheme. But I digress. And now we move on to the Canes. This is another team that that 16 and 13 last year. They had a lot of losses. I think the reason that they're down here near the bottom is just because they lost their top 6 leading scorers, including Jalen
Yeah.
Johnson, who was the leading free throw shooter or second leading free throw shooter, led the conference in assists and steals, 15 points a game, was all conference. They lost so many people. But I will say this, I think Aaron Coombs did a good of restocking the shelves, so to speak, getting some talent in to replace what is a huge loss of talent. Like I said, 6 players, the top 6 scorers going. That's a lot of shoes to fill in. And I think he did a great job, though. I'll let you kind of take it from here on some of the players he brought in, but he brought in a pretty talented transfer class.
Absolutely. I mean, he got Antoine Weber Jr. from Gateway College, Florida Gateway College, who averaged 16 points last year and 6 rebounds on 50% shooting, which is very good, honestly.
And 37% from 3. He can shoot it from the outside as well,
Oh,
so he can just
absolutely.
fill the bucket.
They also got Matt Ansaw from Rowan State Community College, who averaged 13, 5, and 5. And he shot pretty well, too. He shot 36 from three-point land and 46 from the field.
Another guy they got was Josiah Shackelford, which I knew threw you off because Flagler College also has a Josiah Shackelford, so they are not related. So when the Canes come to St. Augustine this year, we'll have 2 Josiah Shacklefords on the floor, and that'll be interesting. They also got Sean Burris, who is a transfer from Sauk Valley Community College, so they went the JUCO route to try and fill in the ranks. But I think
It's a
these are
great
some
route.
talented players they're going to bring in. So looking forward to seeing the Canes. You know, the Canes losing Jalen Johnson, who was an excellent player, Christian Kuntz, but I think Jalen Johnson is another one of those guys who might have been a little underrated in his time at Georgia Southwestern. So I'm looking forward to
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
this new look Canes team. Now we get to the Lakers, the Clayton State Lakers, who Coach Vince Alexander is having to do a complete rebuild there, and he's in his 4th season trying to get the Lakers going. And they're another team that was hit by some big losses, but I thought did a really good job of filling in those losses. Travis Harper averaged 17 points a game. He's gone, as is Tyler Shirley and Keandre Bowles and TJ Stargell. So they lost 5 of their top 6 scores and 6 of their top 8 scores. But this is another team that really did a really good job, in my opinion. I think and it's gonna bear out that way. And really locally, they went to the junior colleges around the area and picked up some pretty good talent.
Oh, yeah. They got JoJo Bell from South Georgia State, who averaged 15, 6, and 2 on 50% shooting, which that's very good for even the JUCO level. That is some very good
Especially for a
stats.
guard, and he is a guard.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
6 rebounds a game. He's a very balanced player. They got Deshaun Joseph from Albany Tech. He's a big guy, kind of a banger. 10 points, 8 rebounds last year. Shot 56% from the field, so he's going to give them a presence inside.
They also got JoJo Bell's teammate Giannis Woods from South Georgia State, who averaged 12 and 8 last year. And that's a great pair. That was a great pairing at South Georgia State. I'm excited for them to be able to move up to the Division II level. And actually, they also got Lay Davis, who averaged 10 and 7 at South Georgia State. So they got 3 of South Georgia State's best players. So that should be a fun little cohesion right there.
And they got 5 players from the same conference, 3 guys who were teammates. So for a team that's having to rebuild on the fly, I think having guys who are familiar with each other and have experience together, I think that is going to serve them well.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how high in the Peach Belt ladder Clayton State can climb, but I think that this is definitely going to be a much improved Lakers squad, and I hope I don't have to say that about the NBA either. And finally, last but not least, because we're running a little long here, I know, and we appreciate if you through with us. But USC-Beaufort, a team that we had a chance to look at firsthand. I'll let you talk about the loss because I know this loss hit you personally. I think you lost basically your three favorite players left this year. Frank Champion, Jalen Barr, and then, of course, your guy.
Mr. Marcus Overstreet. What can I say about him that has not already said? Third team PBC last year, was third in the conference in points, first in rebounds, first in field goal percentage, averaging 16-11 on 50% free throw shooting, which is very hard to do for a big man, and averaged 62.5 from the field. Went 0 for 1
freshman
on 3
of the
last
year,
but I'm sure
freshman.
Oh yeah, freshman.
Yeah,
freshman of the year
and
all conference.
And he started off kind of slow and got better as the year goes on. He had a 36 and 25 game. That game was double overtime, triple overtime,
quadruple.
Might have been quadruple. Yeah, and I remember seeing him though against Flagler. He seemed to have his way with Flagler at 27 and 18. He had like 18 and 12 at halftime in that second game at Beaufort. So that is a big loss. But we've seen that they've brought in some great people. Kevon Price returns. Kenny Gaines has stepped up big. He had a big night. Alejandro Laralot, who was on the FAU Final Four team, comes in. And then Coach Fudala told me offline at the game that, Patrick Ariel, who's a transfer center from USC Upstate, another team we're familiar with from our days back at UNF, he expects him to be a force for them, but he is working on getting back to play. And then they have Kyle Pulse, who is a heat check guy. He hit a huge shot to force overtime on Friday. So they've got a team that last year was first in scoring, first in rebounds, and first in turnovers. They turn the ball over. They press, and they run 10 guys out, and 37 turnovers forced on Friday, and then 35 more on Saturday. So they are a team that is going to force turnovers. And even when they struggle offensively, they're such a good shooting team. They do such a great job of forcing turnovers. I think they're going to give teams fits this year, and they're going to be not your typical second-year program.
Oh, not at all. This program is heading in the right direction, 100%.
So that is it. This will be our first episode of the Peach Baskets podcast. We'll be back next week. We'll get you caught up on the games over the weekend. You see some of those on the ticker and get you caught up on the news and notes of the Peach Belt. Won't probably run as long as this, but we wanted to make sure we got everybody covered here. So signing off one more time for Mike Lischio III. I am Mike Lischio Jr. Thank you for tuning in.